Whether you're a seasoned gardener or nature lover, plant assassin or permaculture professional, we got you. We got you. Let us bring you the ideas, the facts, support and inspiration to go green wherever you are. Sundays 9 to 10 a.m. only on Radio Al Ansar. Hey, 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 it's Green Thumbs Up Day. That's right. Sunday, beautiful Sunday here in Durban. Now, if you're joining us on 90 or in Durban with us, if you are 105 FM, Johannesburg. And I say, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Rabia. If you haven't been to Green Thumbs Up, it's that gardening, natural living show you didn't know you needed, the one where everybody's an expert, nobody has all the answers, and together we just grow with when I was listening to Buddy earlier on, talking about the TikToky and man alive, things are changing. The world of social media is changing. I just have to mention it before we get started because we really learn a lot. I'll tell you, having moved over, well, I haven't left TikTok, of course. You can still find me there as Life Coach Robbie, but having moved over to Red Note, which is, of course, China itself. Isn't that amazing? The Americans leave TikTok and head on over to China. And I have found, man alive, the gardens, the gardening that is going on in China is beyond anything I've seen. And I got to thinking about all these wonderful ideas that people have posted. Do you know, some people really just have their room and they turn that entire room into the most magnificent garden. Man alive. And that just really got me thinking about how we can really grow some plants and just have a really lovely green environment. Green is so good for our eyes, it's so good for our body, it's so good for our soul. In fact, there have been studies conducted that show that having your eyes looking at green, the color green, in your environment, particularly in your work environment, actually helps to reduce stress. So get yourself a pot plant. If nothing else, a little pot plant. Does plastic work the same? No, I'm afraid it doesn't. But Asfat, our engineer here this morning, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
This is Brother Asfat Fili with me this morning. And do you have any plants growing? Nothing. We need to bring Brother Asfat a plant. Yes? Do you think it would die? You need a garden. Okay, he needs a garden, not just a plant. Okay, so then we will wait, inshallah, that Allah grow you and bless you so you can have a beautiful, beautiful garden. Why not? Inshallah, Ameen. Why not? Absolutely. So there are some messages coming in and there is lots of assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum salam. How wonderful to see all our listeners are ready for the show. And so, what is today's show about? Today's show is about the quirky things, the innovations that you can make, that you can do to your gardens. So if we're talking about New Year's designs, we're talking about accessories in the garden. And what prompted this was not just the whole Red Note thing and seeing these beautiful gardens, but also when I was in the bush very recently, we had a opportunity to drive through the bush in the nighttime. And the nighttime was quite revealing to me, because you're driving through the bush and there is literally nothing but the dirt ahead of you. And yes, we saw a couple of snakes slithering across the path in the night time. And then, of course, there's the trees, as close as kind of you can stretch your arm out of the window. And what I found in the moonlight was the most beautiful, beautiful silvery leaves. Trees that you would see in the daytime just look kind of a light green. And yet, when the moon comes out and the lights go off, that is, the sun goes down, you've got this beautiful, beautiful glow. And it got me thinking. Do you remember, folks, when we did that show on moon gardens? And by moon gardens, there's nothing esoteric about it. It's literally growing plants that glow in the moonlight, and how we can maximize these things, maximize the beauty of our gardens in the nighttime. When we're standing looking out from the window and we can see these beautiful plants. And we spoke about, how do you make that moonlit garden? Well, it's those grey plants, it's those reflective leaves, it's those beautiful surfaces. Even if you're wanting to, that reflective paint. Yes, you can get reflective paint, same stuff they use on the roads, I suppose. And it does come in different colors. And you can get stones that glow in the dark and little solar lights. What have you done in terms of brightening up your garden in the nighttime? Let us know on our WhatsApp line. It's 060 904 1056. And if you'd like to give us a call, of course, our lines are always open. The number there is 0861 904 1056. So what does it take to make a pretty garden? You don't need to have a big garden at all. You just need a balcony. And if that doesn't work, well, then I am seeing from the folks out in China that really all you need is a place, even if it's indoors, and you need some lighting. And plants will grow pretty much anywhere and give you so much in return. This morning's guest is someone that we have had on our show. She's a regular. She's well loved by our Al Ansar family. And all of the listeners really enjoy these shows, I know. And so we are getting ready to have Dr. Cary Goodwin with us on the line today. And so I was thinking, when I chatted to her earlier in the week, to talk about all things quirky and special interest in the garden. Because some people love their gardens formal and structural, and you've got these beautiful structural pots in absolute symmetry. And I do remember once my father making a flower bed that was square and using a ruler to make sure that the lines were absolutely square. And then over time, he developed a love for the organic, and it was lovely. So things grow hodgepodge in organized chaos, essentially. And that was beautiful. My father, who has passed, Allah grant him Jannah, inshallah. And so yes, some people have these really, really structural gardens, and other people have romantic gardens. Talk about landscaping styles, romantic gardens with the rose bushes and the arbors, and perhaps you have a pretty gazebo if you have a bigger yard, and a little bit of time and money to spare, of course. Then why not? Then you've got a beautiful place where you can really rest and call it your getaway, your sanctuary. And why not spend some time also making dua in those beautiful gardens in the daytime, or even when it rains, right? Why not? Even when it rains. What a wonderful, wonderful idea. So romantic gardens is one thing. The other thing you might consider is a good old country garden where flowers grow that you can use for food. And that's where I am at the moment, almost a cross between a romantic and a country garden. I love the flowers that grow wild, and you've got your cornflowers that pop up like frilly little purple flowers, and they grow in mass, and every year they just come back up again because they throw their seeds out, and the next year in spring, up come those beautiful cornflowers. Or maybe you've got sunflowers. And I know some ladies who have sunflowers as accent plants, just the one or two, or maybe a clump of them, drawing attention to that room in the garden. We speak about garden rooms, areas in your garden that are divided almost like rooms. So if you have a little bit of a bigger space, you don't have to have, different areas looking completely different. There can be a theme that flows through all of these things, but certainly to have accents are great. And then there are the playful accents that we're talking about today. Things like plants growing in water cans. And we've got jeans. Yes, jeans that you wear that now you can no longer wear. So you stuff them with soil. You stuff them with soil, your mix of soil and compost and vermiculite. And then you grow your plants in there. And maybe you can use the pockets to grow some lettuce, whilst out of the top grows something else. And maybe if there's a slit in the gene here or a slit in the gene there, out pops some strawberries. Why not? There are so many wonderful, wonderful ideas for things that you can grow in the garden. And yes, the things that we grow are not just flowers. So, Brother Asfat, how are we coming along there with our dear Dr. Cary Goodwin? I believe she's experiencing some technical difficulties at the moment, so we're going to hold on to that and she can join us as soon as she is able to. In the meantime, last week, we also had some wonderful, wonderful interchanges with people asking advice in terms of natural healing. And you can always do that here. We always have some advice to give you, remembering, of course, that anything we give you in terms of natural therapies should be consulted with your medical practitioner. A lot of people will take medications and then take natural remedies and not know that these things can and do interact. So just this week, I had a lady message me and ask me, what can she take? Really complicated situation. She's had a heart attack before. She has, not high, but very low blood pressure. And in looking at, the things that she's taking, we can see that sometimes when medical doctors look at symptoms, they're addressing just that symptom. And so they throw something at that symptom without realizing that something else that the patient is taking actually counteracts that. Now, of course, good doctors will look out for that, and most doctors do look out for that. But sometimes these things are missed. Or sometimes you're taking a natural remedy that interferes with it. For example, if you have low blood pressure and then you drink stinging nettle tea because perhaps you've come up with a UTI, what happens then? Well, your blood pressure is going to drop. And if you already have low blood pressure, that might not be ideal. Stinging nettle is, of course, one of those things that grows very well and lends itself to these quirky type of gardens, because in these quirky type of gardens, you can grow big leaves, small leaves, flowers, herbs, remedies, and it's wonderful to grow your healing plants together with your normal plants. There's companion gardening with your ornamentals, that is. It's all about companion gardens. So why not grow your garlic bulbs at the foot of your rose bushes? And in that way, you're preventing aphids from ransacking your rose petals. Why not grow some comfrey leaves, right? Grow some comfrey all among your flower beds where you're needing large, beautiful green leaves. Because comfrey not only makes a beautiful leaf, but it makes fantastic compost and fantastic mulch as the leaves die. Now, we are going to take a quick little ad break and we'll be right back after this. So don't go away. We're talking quirky gardens today.
It's official. Checkers Foods Kawi Park is our first food store with a halal butchery, bakery and deli certified by NIHT, the National Independent Halal Trust. This will ensure high standards and ethical practices across our butchery, bakery and deli from farm to table. So visit Checkers Foods, Cowie Park for an exceptional shopping experience that keeps getting better and better.
اللهم بارك لنا في رجب وشعبان وبلغنا رمضان. اللهم بارك لنا في رجب وشعبان وبلغنا رمضان.
Amman means safety.
The Amman School of Excellence in Finetown, South Africa, is securing the futures of underprivileged children by providing world-class education in a safe and nurturing environment. Sponsor a child for only 15,000 Rand per year or any amount. A quality education at Amman presents a pathway out of poverty and a brighter future for South Africa.
Africa Muslims Agency. Empowering, educating, inspiring.
Iqra Wafham. Read and understand the Holy Quran. Your program giving you the most powerful manual for life. It's the message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the Last Testament. The ayahs are recited, translated and explained for us to understand by various learned scholars of Islam. Comes to you every Sunday at 8 p.m. and Fridays at 10:30 p.m. Iqra Wafham. Read and understand.
Radio Al Ansar, 24/7, 360.
And you are back with green thumbs up. Listen to Did You Hear? Today we play our new nasheed, selected by all of you listeners. We play that, and it is such a cute little song. It is, of course, Allah Created Everything, which is a song by Zaki. That's Zaky. And today's show, we are talking about Quirky Gardens, and it looks like we have Dr. Cary joining us in just a minute. So in the meantime, let me know, what quirky things have you grown? Now, there are some beautiful, beautiful pictures that Sister Fatima has sent us of moonlit flowers or moonlight flowers. And absolutely, there is this white hydrangea and all of these silvery white flowers that look like snow. White flowers make for beautiful moonlit gardens because it catches the light, it reflects the light, and then you have this beautiful, beautiful garden. So yes, Jazakallah for all of those photographs. She says, for you, sis, Jazakallah khair for those. That is our moonlit gardens. But there are so many things we were saying. Country gardens, right? Romantic gardens, yes. And then there is this new thing that I heard about last year, which had become quite a trend in 2024. My goodness, it's 2025, Ashfat. I was just about to say in 2023, as though 2023 was last year. No, we're already in 2025. Anyway, I heard about something called chaos gardens. Chaos gardens. I don't know if it is for me, but it is exactly what it says. It's a hodgepodge of everything kind of growing together, but in a way that still looks beautiful. So maybe it will work. Maybe it is just a spin-off on a country garden. So I think that we should all try it, because why not? Are you growing anything interesting? Are you growing any interesting foods at the moment? Are you growing any ornamental flowers? What kind of flowers are you growing in your garden or even on your balcony? Are you growing anything on your balcony? Did you know that something as simple as dania can grow beautifully in your garden? And it really doesn't take a lot of work. All it takes is a pot, some soil, and some coriander seeds. So when you're growing coriander, remember, you want to lightly crush those seeds first, those coriander seeds. You want to lightly crush your coriander seeds, and then you can sow them, because the coriander seeds can actually rot inside that hard little shell before they even grow, and we don't want that, right? So coriander seeds can also be grown in a colander. Coriander, of course, is dhania, right? Dhania. And you can grow it in a colander. That's a strainer. All you need is some kitchen towel paper to line your colander, and then you take your lightly cracked coriander seeds, because cracked things do well. And we're all a little cracked, aren't we? So we take those coriander seeds, put them into that kitchen paper towel, and then put another kitchen paper towel over it, and just keep it moist. When they start to germinate, you can pull off that top kitchen towel, of course, so that they have sunshine and so that they have light and so that you can access the water. Now, we're still trying to get hold of Dr. Cary Goodwin, and I'm wondering if we should just give her a tinkle rather than have her join. Let's do that. Let's give Dr. Cary a call so that she can join us. I know she's been very excited to do this show about quirky gardening with all of us today. And I don't know that the folks on my TikTok will be able to follow this, but if you're on YouTube, Radio Al Ansar, or Facebook, Radio Al Ansar, or even on FM, 90.4 FM or 105.6 FM, you can join us and have a listen to this interview. So, Dr. Cary Goodwin, Asfat, how are we doing? Great. Okay, we're still waiting, folks. And while we're waiting, let me then tell you a little bit more about the natural health side of things. We're bouncing to and fro because that's what we are. We're a natural living and gardening show. So we don't just speak gardening here, but natural living. And part of that, of course, is the nature's apothecary. Now, if you've grown plants in your garden that you can use for vinegars, I've given you recipes. For oils, I've given you recipes. Did you know that once you make a tea from a herbal plant, that then can be used to make creams? Yes, and a cream, if you're making an aqueous cream from a herbal plant, all you really need is fats, a little bit of that tea, and an emulsifier. Then you need a whisk and begin to whisk it up. And as you whisk, as you beat that mix of fats and the tea, you are going to find that suddenly, all of a sudden, it goes white and creamy, and we are then able to have our aqueous cream. And that's literally how they make these creams. It's just the oils of your choice. So if you're into castor oil, for instance, because you're wanting a bit more anti-inflammatory and a bit more painkiller, then you can use that. If you're wanting olive oil to smooth your skin, you can use that. So do we have Dr. Cary Goodwin? She is joining us in a few minutes. Yes, we're still waiting, folks. We're still waiting. Technical difficulties sometimes on the side of our guests do happen. But I was saying, you're going to use the oils of your choice. So olive oil is something that you can use to keep your skin highly moisturized. Jojoba oil is one of those oils that you can use to really soften the skin, and it does have anti-aging properties. Then you've got almond oil. Almond oil feeds the epidermis, the underlayers of our skin. So use almond oil. Castor oil, as we said, is not just anti-aging. Listen to what some of the things that castor oil does. Castor oil has anti-aging properties, anti-pigmentation properties, anti-acne properties. Castor oil is a painkiller. There are so many attributes to castor oil. Put that on your arthritis and your rheumatism and watch it go away. Put the castor oil on your eyelashes and eyebrows and watch your hair grow. Put it over your eyes at night and watch the cataracts melt away. Put it in your nose and find that no more enlarged turbinates. And on that note, speaking enlarged turbinates, larger than life is Dr. Cary Goodwin, and she is with us on the show. She's in my headphones. Hello, Dr. Cary, how are you?
I'm fine, and you? I'm so sorry for all the technical issues.
I'm good, thank you. It's great to have you back on the show. Now, you are talking to us today about Quirky Gardens, and I know that you've had a little bit of a technical issue joining us, but I'm so glad that you made it. And I was wondering, can we get the sound in the studio as well? That would be awesome. No, not really. No, we can't. Okay. So, Dr. Cary,
Sorry.
that's okay. Tell us now. Sorry?
Tell her to speak.
Okay. Can you just, we'd like to test your sound. Can you say hello? Hello.
Hello.
There you are, Dr. Cary. Awesome. We can hear you, right? Perfect.
Good.
Fantastic. Okay. So now let's talk about Quirky Gardens.
It's my favorite topic.
Your
because
favorite topic.
I think I think gardens are so representative of who we are as a person. And I think myself, I'm quite a quirky person. And even this morning when I was gardening, which is the best thing to do at sunrise, I was looking at my plants. I'm thinking, goodness, this looks a bit like a Smartie box. But I have all these weird and wonderful plants, and I'm trying to think if they would be friends, should they be combinations? Like I put a lovely obelix with my clematis climbing up it, and then underneath it I've got geraniums, which will love the sun but will protect the roots of the clematis. So I'm trying to play to the what the plants would like best. You know, they like cool roots and then a nice sunny spot for their leaves to grow.
Yes.
So I think it's trying to find those plants that you want to talk about, and you want people to, when they come into your garden, say, "Oh, that's interesting,"
Yes.
but you want to highlight them.
Yes.
So have you put them on a pedestal, or have you put them in a funky pot or something like that?
Do you know, I have a funny one growing, and that is in my kumquat pot. I have scabiosa, and I know it's not a very common thing, but I love the idea of these orange little kumquats growing, this little fruit growing, and then you've got these purple frilly flowers. I love purple frilly flowers. I'm wearing purple frilly scarf today. You didn't see it because you're not joining us on StreamYard. And I think, you know, the color purple is such a beautiful color in the gardens, and I love to see that contrast, that complementary colors. You know, the contrast of maybe a blue and a white, a purple and a yellow, you know, those complementary colors.
Because I did quite a bit of that, but when you talk about your kumquat and the scabiosa, I think what the advantage is, and apart from the contrasting colors, is that now you're actually inviting pollinators to yours, because your bees would love the scabiosa.
Yes.
And then when they're there, they're like, "Oh, this is like, you know, pudding and dessert and a full meal in once, because I've got my scabiosa, and then I can go up to my compote flowers and pollinate that and get some nectar." So they're just having a joyous time in that pot. And you're just thinking, "Oh, it looks pretty, but look how much you're doing for the environment and biodiversity."
For true, as they say, for true. You know, on a similar note, I have a granadilla bush that literally I didn't want to put it directly in the ground because the place where it is quite rocky. So I've taken kind of a bathtub, right? A small little thing, one of those baby tubs. And I have planted my granadilla bush in there. And I am literally gobsmacked that these two small stems have produced so many leaves. It has completely covered what used to be an old chicken coop roof that I had there. And I have a perennial basil growing next to it, which of course attracts bees and wasps. And so do I not have so many granadillas? And they are big ones, because of course the pollinators, we need the pollinators.
Yes. And, you know, when you talk about the perennial basil, we have them in the nursery this last week. And my sister-in-law came to me. She says, "It looks like the bees are having a feeding frenzy. They're just frenetic about all the pollen that they're collecting from the perennial basil."
For sure.
Absolutely. It's truly amazing.
Absolutely.
So I think, you know, you should look into home. Like I said to you, I've planted before orchids into teacups. This weekend, I was actually planting my succulents into also teacups again. So have a look and see what interesting containers that you have at home, like your bath.
Yes.
And then they almost complement the plant, because you're saying, not only is my plant weird and quirky, but my containers speak in the same language. They match in. It's a bit bizarre
Yes.
to maybe plant a carrot's, frosty curls into your jeans if you'd fill your jeans up with some potting soil.
Yes. I love that idea of jeans and jackets and, stitch the bottom up, and it can double up as a little bit of a scarecrow, actually, if you were to, mount it on a pole. But
Which I think we
okay, I think
garden, especially when you plant seedlings.
yes, you do need that. I've also found in Durban there are so many birds, at least where I'm at, there's so many birds that the seeds kind of vanish off the ground. So I do like to take a thin little mesh and just lay it on the soil, even on my pots if I'm germinating seeds, because otherwise the birds get to them. The birds just chomp it all up. But you were talking about
Oh, no.
Pollinators. I came across something this week that I thought you might find interesting. And because we are now, deep into the summer, going into autumn, I think almost soon, right? March. So
Please don't say just yet.
No,
I'm loving the sunshine.
I am too. I am too. But the bees do struggle in this extreme heat. And so if you're finding, folks, that you found a little bee and it's on the floor and it's flying around but not on a flowering plant, it's probably starving. So here's how you can help. Apparently, now, Cary, you'll have to tell us if this is true. You mix 2 parts of sugar to 1 part of water and offer the syrup to the bee. And they are mostly ladies, will happily drink from a teaspoon. Now, you can see her little black tongue as she drinks, and it'll take about 10 minutes for her to convert that syrup to energy. But if you give her enough time and you've helped her in time, she will fly away. This is temporary and first aid only. But apparently, we should not give honey to bees that have fallen off of plants or are lying on the ground, because honey can spread disease from colony to colony. I did not know this. So that's something I came across this week that I thought I'd share with you.
I think that's amazing. I love the idea, because we do actually find a lot of bees that, as you say, are starving, because, a lot of our flowers maybe don't have pollen anymore. They've been quite hybridized. Or we don't, we've had, for us in Gauteng, we've had a lot of rain. So when the sun is out, the bees are trying to feed feverishly, and they don't almost have enough time to collect all the nectar and pollen that they're looking for. So if we could help them, like with your first aid, I think that's a great idea.
Absolutely.
I hadn't heard about the honey before, but I think it would be very true.
Yes.
Because the bees' hives are so sensitive to what's going on in our environment. And, if you put in something from another hive, I just think it could cause trouble. So
absolutely.
I like the idea of just using the sugar and the water.
And it's quirky.
And yes, exactly.
Quirky. Speaking of quirky, let's talk about garden ornaments. I see one of our listeners has sent us some pictures of what looks like giant cake plates, one over the other, and in each of those plates there are loads of little stones. So they've made almost like a riverbed succulent garden in each one of these plates. So you have layers of a little succulent riverbed garden that also has some rose succulent in different colors. So there's like a purpley cactus, and then all these little succulents around it. What a lovely idea.
It sounds beautiful. It actually makes me think you don't need a lot of space to create beautiful artistry within your garden or on your patio or in your home.
Yes.
It's just the combination of plants that you use, and then the containers, which, as you say, could be quirky. It could be a broken pot even. It could be an old Wellington.
Yes.
It could be all sorts of things that you could plant into. And then, I want to say gnomes and fairies are coming back, which is quite wonderful for me.
Okay. Okay, gnomes and fairies. I have to say, from an Islamic perspective, and our listeners can guide us here, we don't normally
Mm.
put things with faces in the garden. Isn't that an interesting one? Bet you didn't know that. So, but
No,
yes,
I was going to say, I'm definitely learning new things
there you
today.
go. There you go.
Thank you for
But
teaching me.
yeah, how about also little lanterns? There's all sorts of little sizes, different sizes lanterns, and they don't even have to have anything in them. But if you were, I'm just saying, to put, little solar lanterns hanging around or solar fairy lights, how beautiful those are. Capture the sun in the
Yeah.
day, and then in the nighttime, out come all of these pretty little flowers. I mean, all these pretty little lights over your flowers, which then reflect light again. I keep going back to the moon gardens because it's just so beautiful. But you spoke about Wellingtons, and those are the gumboots, right?
Gumboots, yes, yeah.
Yeah. I saw a funny one the other day where they filled the Wellington up with soil and they had plants growing out from the bottom, but the gumboot was actually, the sole had loosened off the bottom. So what they did was they used that. They placed a stick in the middle so that it kind of kept the sole of the shoe open, so that creates a mouth in the front, and they had stuff growing out the front of the shoe as well.
People are, I want to say they're just geniuses. They're creative ideas that they come up with. I love it.
Yes. And there's so much recycling that can happen as well. Recycling not just plastic, but glass. People don't realize how easy it is to just get a little glass cutter and cut a circle in a glass bottle and put the cork on. And then you can string all of these up in a row and you could grow stuff from that. What might you grow? I don't know.
Absolutely.
Cascading plants.
We had a customer last week, which I thought was amazing. He brought his 3 young girls into the garden center, and he had bought huge cookie jars. And then he said he just wanted to plant like a terrarium for each of his daughters.
Right.
And they got a little bit of stones and some potting soil, and then they went and chose different plants. And then they planted them into these big cookie jars. And I thought, that's also quite a nice idea, because the little girls could either keep their terrariums, in their rooms. They don't have to worry too much about the watering.
Yes.
Then they could either take them outside if they wanted a change. So I love the idea of their dad creating, they could choose what they wanted to put into these cookie jars. But it was almost this kind of a fail safe that the plants were going to survive for a bit longer, because as soon as you put the lid on, you've created almost like a terrarium or a tunnel,
an ecosystem
which
on its
will
own.
water itself.
An ecosystem on its own. And thinking of terrariums, they're not just for indoors, but if you have a balcony or you have a really shady spot in a garden with a little table, you can have different levels. You can have a terrarium on a brick and another terrarium on a pretty stone, and you can have another one on a cake stand, for instance. And then you could bring in pretty colored stones. And there's so much beautiful rose quartz and tiger's eye, and even just the clear quartz or even the granite, and play with the colors.
I think so. And not only the colors, but then the textures that you would get. So even if you were using, you spoke about the quartz, which are more sharp shape, but then if you use pebbles, that would like soften around your plants, it almost acts as a mulch.
Yes.
So even when you plant in containers, and it could be your Quirky container, don't forget to almost cover your soil so you don't have to worry about weeding, and it will just keep your soil a bit cooler as well, so your plants will grow better.
Mm-hmm.
So I think of all those things when you plant, and don't think that it only has to be in your garden.
Yes.
That you have to follow the principles of gardening.
Yes.
As soon as you take a plant and put it into any type of soil, then think of, how can I protect my soil? How can I keep it cool? What way am I going to keep the moisture in my soil?
Yes.
So
good mulch.
I mean, it's not only thinking about what you're going to put on top of the plant or how the plant is going to grow up an obelix or something like that, but what's also happening below the ground. If you plant it into jars, then you get to see the soil life underneath, the roots, and how it all grows. And it's fascinating.
And yes, if you do plant in glass, you can actually see that. And I've now got this idea of this table in my brain in a shady spot. And why not have an ant farm? for the kids. In an old fish aquarium, you could put an ant farm in there
Yes.
and let the kids feed the ants, who then will in turn, if it's open, of course, every once in a while, then if, the population gets big, you can open up and let a few of those ants out and let them eat the aphids.
Absolutely. I mean, because that's what we're trying to create in our gardens. We're trying to create a habitat, or like you said earlier, an ecosystem for each insect to have its beneficial. And be able to, I want to say, live its best life, like we were trying to live our best life, like the earthworms. So if it's not an animal farm that you're creating, you could even create an earthworm farm.
Yes, because
It's lovely to see their little tunnels. And it's my favorite when I'm digging in the garden to actually find earthworms. And I think, yay, I've got soil. Mushrooms. When people are seeing mushrooms in their garden, it's actually, again, a sign of good, healthy soil. Your compost is decomposing. That's why you're having mushrooms there.
do you know,
Some things we think of a negative, it's actually really a positive thing to have in your garden.
mushrooms are the most amazing thing to grow in glass. And there are so many spores that you can buy, oyster mushrooms and button mushrooms. And you know what was amazing for me growing oyster mushrooms was seeing the soil, or the substrate rather, become white before the little mushrooms pop up, because of course the mushrooms are the fruit, but the plant is really underground, isn't it? It's that white mycelium. And speaking of white,
and people think that's a bad thing. They'll bring it in their soil. Look, what's happened to my compost, or look what's going on. And you're like, this is positive. Embrace the change that you're seeing in your soil.
Yes, if you've got that white mycelium in your soil, listeners, it is beautiful. If you've got a pot that's laying out there and there's lots of white mycelium, leave it and see what grows. Be careful though, folks. Let's just put this caution out there.
Yes.
Don't nosh on mushrooms that you don't know. It could be the last thing you nosh on, because mushrooms can sometimes be poisonous, toxic, land you up in hospital, or give you a really, really bad trip. And we don't want nobody taking mushrooms that have all sorts of weird properties. So let's use our common sense there. But yes, do you know, using these quirky kind of containers can also be done vertically. I know, for instance, a lot of people use tires, and one of the listeners has sent us a picture of lots of tires with flowers growing, and these look like carnations growing in these tires. But you could actually hang the tire, hang it up on the wall,
yes,
and then grow from the bottom. So put the soil in the base of the tire, and if you wanted to, you could get really creative and staple some netting to the top part so the underside of the top half of the circle. So as the tire goes around the top, you kind of put the netting in there to hold the soil in, and you could grow upside down stuff there, upside down tomatoes, upside down. And I think that makes a really quirky feature.
Yes. Well, I think it would be interesting with the tomatoes is if you'd put them in the top part where your shade netting is, the plant would come out, but then it would automatically grow upwards to hide your tire. So it doesn't actually ever going to hang down, which maybe some other plants like your senesioas, your string of beads, or maybe not edible ones, they might hang down.
Now, Cary,
but your tomatoes will almost form like a U-turn.
Now, Cary, I have to disagree. Because I'm at them. I had little cherry tomatoes, and they literally hung down.
No, I can't believe it.
They hung down. The leaves kind of lift up off the stem, but the stem grew down. There were a couple of stems that would want to turn upward, but they can't support their weight. So they end up hanging down. And so you've got like a roof. If you've got a patio, for instance, okay, if there is a glass patio and you're getting sun, for instance, then or on the outside of the patio, you can actually grow tomatoes, and they hang down. And those, especially the little tomatoes, the little cherry tomatoes, they actually grow hanging upside down, just as a strawberry would.
No, I feel this is a challenge.
Go on. I want
Go
to see
plant
it.
tomato plants this afternoon.
How amazing would that be? You know, if you have a nursery, then you can plant those
Yes.
and have people come and get your hanging gardens of tomatoes.
I love that because I mean we do strawberries in hanging bowls, which is more normal.
Yes.
But I've never thought of tomatoes.
So here's, I think,
So
where the
I'm gonna do
misunderstanding.
that.
I think maybe here is where I'm not explaining properly. If you're using a basket and you're putting the tomatoes on top, then they're going to grow up because they're inside a basket. I'm saying turn the basket upside down or hang the pot upside down and seal the mouth of the pot with your shade cloth and pop your tomato plant in that way. That's how they're going to grow down. If you're going to plant a basket of tomatoes hanging,
No, I understand.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm gonna send you photos because
Yes.
in my mind I think they're still gonna go down and then do a U-turn up.
Okay, well, I'm going to send you some photos.
Yeah, let's see what's going on.
Awesome. Well, and on that note of sending photos, folks, we need to say to you, can you believe it? Our time is up. No. Dr. Cary, our time is up and we're going to have to, yes, can you believe it? It's 2 minutes to 10 o'clock. Our sound engineer, Brother Asfath, has looked at me like, what? No. Yes, it's 2 minutes to 10. And it is almost time for Sister Salma, Kazi, Wahab to join us on the Sunday Lounge. But I believe that our clock, our in-studio clock is too fast. Look at that. We got 2 more minutes. Give us one last tip. Go on quirky plants or quirky mirrors. How about mirrors?
Things. Oh, mirrors are fantastic. Yes. But mirrors, when you put water down them,
yes,
it creates a complete illusion. So if you had a mirror with a water feature or you put a pipe above your mirror and the water runs down it, it almost creates 3D dimensions.
Wow.
And then your garden could mirror something within, it makes your garden look bigger or your patio or.
Yes.
So definitely mirrors with water could be quite gorgeous.
Yes. Just be careful, folks, that you don't have the, a mirror also reflects light. So if the sun is hitting directly onto that mirror, you don't want it setting things on fire. If you've got a lot of dry kind of stuff lying around or fabric, especially if it's on a patio, angle the mirror so that it catches the light, diffuses the light, but it's not catching direct sunlight and acting like a magnifying glass to set your curtains on fire, because that won't be fun. But mirrors do, as you say, they open up the space.
No, I'm thinking definitely put a mirror in the shade. A shade garden.
Yes. I have seen these beautiful kind of fountains for people who like something a little bit more structural, but then there's a mirror, like a dome-shaped mirror behind it that catches the water and reflects it out. And as you say, it does open the spaces. It does make things look bigger. And now it does mean it is the end of the show. I cannot even believe it. But yes, we have to say goodbye. Dr. Cary, I shall bid thee adieu until our next time. Thank you so much for being with us on the show today, Dr. Cary Goodwin. It's always a pleasure to have you. Folks, it's been wonderful spending this time.
Thank you very much.
Do you want to just give us your contact details quickly? Oops, I think we've lost her. Okay, so that's it from us, from the Green Thumbs Up show, folks, and we will be with you again next week. Remember, today is a beautiful day to be happy, and until next week, Assalamu alaikum.